Have you ever stopped and wondered how your favorite apps just work? You know how they seem to talk to each other, sharing information, and creating these perfect experiences for you in just a split second? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible engine that powers our entire digital world, the API. And listen, this isn't just some super technical, nerdy topic. No, this is the secret behind pretty much every single thing you do online, from ordering dinner to checking the weather on your phone. I mean, think about it. You open up a travel app, right? You type in where you want to go, and boom, within seconds, you've got flight options from tons of different airlines. How in the world does one little app ask all those separate systems for info and get answers back so fast? It really does feel seamless, almost like magic. But behind that smooth user interface, it's not chaos. It's actually a single, incredibly powerful piece of technology that's connecting everything with total precision and speed. And that elegant solution, the key to this whole digital mystery, is the API. I know, it's just a three-letter acronym, but it is absolutely fundamental to how the modern internet is built. So, API stands for Application Programming Interface. Now, what does that really mean? Well, you can think of it like a set of rules or a contract that lets different software programs talk to each other, exchanging requests and information automatically without you or me having to lift a finger. Look, if that official definition still feels a bit dense, here's a much simpler way to think about it. An API is basically software code that can be accessed or executed. It's like a digital bridge that lets one program ask another program to either do something or to share something. So that's the what. Now for the how. How does this whole software talking to software thing actually play out in the real world? Let's look at a few examples. Let's go back to that flight booking app. When you hit search, the app itself doesn't actually have any flight information. Nope. Instead, its API sends out a very specific, structured request to the APIs of all those different airlines. In return, each airline system sends a response back with its available flights and prices. And finally, the travel app takes all those responses, puts them together, and shows you that one single organized list. Probably the best way to picture this whole thing is to think of the API as a really efficient messenger. Your app, we'll call that the client, gives the messenger a request. The messenger zips over to the airline's database, the server, gets the answer, and brings that response right back to your screen. Now, this interaction always has two key players. First, you have the service consumer. That's the app you're actually using, like a Where is my train app that needs information. Then you have the service provider. That's the source of the data, like the Indian Railways system, which makes its live train data available through its own API. One asks, the other answers. Simple as that. And once you see this pattern, you're going to see it everywhere. When you open your banking app to check your balance, that's the consumer, your app, making a secure API call to your bank's system, the provider, to go and fetch your account details. So APIs are cool, right? But they don't just connect apps. They fundamentally change how software is built, and usually for the better. This brings us to a really important idea for developers that ends up making apps more stable for all of us. It's an idea called shift-left testing. So picture a typical project timeline that moves from left to right, from the idea to the build to the final release. Testing usually happens way over on the right at the very end. Shift left is a simple but really powerful idea. Just move that testing as early in the process, as far to the left as you can, so you can find and fix problems way sooner. The logic here is just common sense. It's way easier and a lot cheaper to fix a small crack in a building's foundation than it is to repair a crumbling wall in a finished skyscraper. By testing early, you build quality in from the very beginning. And this is where APIs become a total game changer for developers. Because an API is its own self-contained unit, developers can build it and test it all by itself. They don't have to wait for the entire app or all the fancy user interface to be finished. They can make sure that their messenger is working perfectly on its own, which, as you can imagine, dramatically speeds up development and cuts down on bugs. And to get all this critical testing work done right, developers don't just wing it. No, they have a whole set of dedicated, powerful tools to help them out. You'll hear names like Postman, Katalon, and JMeter. These are some of the big ones, the industry standards. They let developers do things like simulate thousands of requests at once, check for security holes, and just make sure that every single API is rock solid and reliable before it ever gets to you, the user. So if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. APIs are the invisible, absolutely essential backbone of our digital lives. From banking and travel to social media and beyond, they're the silent connectors that make everything just work. So, the next time you use an app that magically pulls in information from somewhere else, you'll know the secret. You'll see those hidden API connections working behind the scenes. What other digital magic will you start to notice now?